money go. Once I got my disability money, there was the disability money itself and then the back payment. I spent around $300 a month for keeping my vehicle legal, and spent about $200 and something on rent. That's about all of my $600, right? There's a little bit more on top of that to live on. Well, except that I was paying money at Ken Wilson and Leitha Plunkett's to stay there. I was also having to spend money to go see my therapist, Nicole Peralta, and my case manager, Tamara. I don't remember her last name for the life of me. And yeah, that was not cheap. And then, of course, I was going back and forth between Chapel, Nebraska and Denver, which is like 3.5 hours of driving each direction. So that's like 5 hours worth of gas. And I'm doing that between 2 and 4 times a month. And that was extremely expensive. I mean, that ended up being easily $200 to $300 a month. Meanwhile, I'm disabled. This is my disability. Well, hello, Miss Lucy. He's on the phone, or I'd ask permission.
Supposed to attack me for everything that I've ever tried to do for her. Like, she wants to just see
I'll be back, Miss Lucy.
that I fucking do. She wants to compare me to Keenan all the time. I had to specifically ask her to stop comparing me to that motherfucker. Just to get that to, like, stop, you know?
So then, of course, I had to pay for the wear and tear on the vehicles. I was paying rent in Chapel, Nebraska. The hopes there was that I'd be able to pay the bill for a year and it would improve my credit. And I thought I did that successfully. Oh, batteries do not fall on the ground. I paid $200 to Brandon Ratner for him to help me to move my stuff from Chapel, Nebraska to Kenneth Wilson and Leitha Plunkett's in Inglewood, Colorado. It's because I couldn't do it myself. My back is fucked. Also, there's a lot of stuff I was supposed to be able to do at Ken Wilson and Leitha Plunkett's, and they were going to let me do my thing and they were going to do their thing. And there was a few things that Kenneth and Leitha were going to help me with. Well, they never got around to helping me with things they said they would. And Leitha Plunkett kept on having projects that she wanted me to do. She wanted me to do all of the honey-do list stuff because I'm a male. And, of course, her husband is a male and he's not there. So I'm supposed to put together the male stuff, right? Well, she had me do physically demanding things that I could not possibly do because I'm obviously disabled. And it would take me at least 2-3 days to recover. 2 to 3 days. I couldn't take care of myself for that 2 or 3 days, and she didn't care. Instead, she treated me like I was lazy because it's been 3 days since I helped her move anything. Except it's not helping her move anything. She's not doing anything to move it. She's just expecting me to. So I spent a lot of money on that. And then, of course, there was the cigarettes. Miss Peaches, that's Taylor Trujillo. They were going to help me. If I went over there, they were going to help me. They were going to help me. They swore they were going to help me. And I just needed to bring cigarettes. So I did. I brought cigarettes. But I'm not going to pretend that they never provided any for me. That's not what this is about. It's about where my money went. Something that nobody seems to care about. They're always trying to tell me about their financial woes. and I'm supposed to make my decisions off of that, but they're not paying any attention to the abuse I'm going through. They don't care if I'm beaten up. They're going to be busy telling me that they're broke. Oh, I'm sorry, Sean, I'm broke. I'm not asking you for money. And then, of course, where did it go? Went to go into the Colorado Coalition of the Homeless. Went to go in to meet Jeff and Kara, wherever it is they wanted to meet, which was usually close to me. Going back to Nebraska to see Nicole Peralta still. And of course, I got to keep my phone bill paid too, don't I? I mean, we're talking about $1,100 to $1,200 a month to do all this stuff that I don't got. Now, this is literally years ago, and you say, oh, you should let it go. I had to let it go. That doesn't mean that there aren't consequences for me for the rest of my life. You know, I went to Colorado. I moved there because Dual County Sheriff's Department, as well as Nicole Peralta, were telling me, hey, there's no services here. You got to go to the Front Range of Colorado. Well, in the Front Range of Colorado, they're going to tell me it's the wrong jurisdiction. Nebraska, they're going to tell me it's the wrong jurisdiction. And it looks like there's the cap to somebody's needle. So I'm going to grab something I can pick that up and toss it with. I don't see a needle to go with it, so that's good. Excuse me, ma'am. There's no needle over there. It's just one of the bright orange caps, a needle.
Okay.
On the other side of the one of the little containers over there.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, can you message can you call Rihanna on the radio? So there's a like an orange needle cap over there, and so I was gonna see if somebody could pick it up. Oh, what? It's
An
like
orange needle cap? I can show it to you.
It's like partial paraphernalia, I would say. I don't know. But I thought about it.
Hey, if it's the needles, I usually go ask the Starbucks people for a cup, and I'll put it in a cup and throw it away. It's right here. I don't see a needle there, but I don't see one in here either, so it's just the cap. Thank you. Anyway, so well, I was with Kenneth Wilson and Leah Plunkett's, and I paid Brandon Ratner a bunch of money to help me to move my stuff from Chapel, Nebraska. And I also paid for a bunch of blacksmithing stuff. That way I would be able to, well, try to do something. Try to fill my time since I couldn't see my friends or support network, and the mental health places were just sending me around in circles. They're making a profit, you know, no big thing. At least they're making a profit, right? With exception of the problem of I was sent to them because I was being abused and they were supposed to help me. And I explained that. And I was also explained that that was wrong, that I needed to go to the cops. And they're supposed to help me. And the cops told me again that I needed to go to mental health. But also, most of the time, they didn't want to get that far. They just wanted to tell me that they had real police work to do and that I needed to just man up. So right before Natalie died, I was paying I also paid at Miss Peach's house. That's Kayla Trujillo. I was paying for Magic the Gathering cards. That's what they kept on telling me. I needed this and I needed that. And they kept on telling me a whole bunch of stuff that I needed to buy and it would make my life better. if I got Minecraft, and I could play Minecraft with Raja, and he would totally love that, and so on and so on. And then, of course, I was paying for food there because they ran out of food on more than one occasion. They got kids, they got kids, they got kids. They got kids, they got kids, they got kids. Over and over again. Sure, they were going to keep their words, but they got kids. They need cigarettes, they need food. Always so fucking needy. They say they'll help me, and then I'm jumping around in circles because they've got needs. Right before Natalie disappeared, I was paying to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, not just Colorado and Nebraska back and forth, but also back and forth between Kayla Trujillo's, and it was in Aurora on 120th and Melody, or just off 120th and Melody, and Kenneth Wilson and Leah Plunkett's at 484. No, it was South Zuni. I was about to give you my dad's address. I apologize for that. That's up on East D Street in Washington State, Tacoma. Anyway, I was driving back and forth between those two places in Colorado. My car was breaking down, and I was having to spend a lot of money to fix it. And I was also, Ken Wilson and Leah Plunkett wanted to spend some money on presents. They didn't bother to tell me that. They needed money for bills, and I told them, hey, if you need to, you can spend some of that money on bills, but just let me know. Well, they didn't let me know, and matter of fact, Ken told me, well, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to spend your money. Well, he told me he was going to pay me back in a day or two, right? This is after he'd been promising to give me the money for, there was a Oculus Rift thing that was supposed to help for me to avoid being overwhelmed. I can put this Oculus Rift thing on my head and immerse myself in a video game, or immerse myself in a picturesque scene of Hawaiian beaches or things like that. And it didn't work. It was only like $450, $500, right? Only. I'd never owned anything that expensive before, you know? So for me to have to send it back a day after getting it kind of sucked. Ken Wilson did take it back. It wasn't that it was broken, it's the stuff that I had on my computer weren't compatible with it. Ken never gave me the money back for that. Also, Ken Wilson and Leah Plunkett started yelling at me and screaming at me, them and Dawnbird, because Ken and Leah didn't have any pot, and Leah needed her pot, and they wanted pot. And if I gave them money so they'd get pot, then I'd have some pot. And of course, pot. I didn't give a shit about pot. The only reason I smoked pot there is because it, well, almost sort of drowned out how fucking scared I was being there, because they were always either fucked up or being assholes. Most of the time they weren't fucked up on drugs. Most of the time it was just pot. But most of the time, Leah Plunkett was going through literally an ounce of marijuana a day. There is no possible way that I could ever do that. So then I got Kenneth Wilson and Leah Plunkett and the things that my money is supposed to go to paying for. It doesn't get to work that way. Meanwhile, I had to make a decision between whether I was going to stay in Colorado along the Front Range or go back to Chapel, Nebraska, where there were no services. Well, with the situation at housing and the fact that Kara Heller and, God, what's his name? Jeff Ritter, both going to help me to set things up in Colorado. And I was jumping through those hoops. And Jeff Ritter, since October, had known that I was trying to turn in Ken Wilson and Leatha Plunkett. He'd also known since I first started talking to him about at least part of the situation with Natalie Bollinger. And he didn't cost me a whole lot of money as far as that goes. He cost me a lot of time because every Tuesday we had a teleconference and I made sure that I made it to those. I made sure that I spent what remaining money I had after Kenneth Wilson and Leatha Plunkett in December of 2017. They'd ripped me off for everything I had. I had literally nothing. I had $2 and something cents on a Starbucks card, and that's all I had. I couldn't have gotten on a bus or gone anywhere else if I wanted to. I was still injured, and I had literally put down my cane and walked over 100 blocks in severe pain with that fucking backpack on my back because, well, Natalie Bollinger lied to me and promised me that she wanted to meet up with me and stop all the crazy. I was so paranoid of the situation that I wanted to meet her at the police station. I was afraid because well, she was wanting to know where I was at. I never once asked her where she was at. I didn't fucking care where she was at because I wasn't fucking stalking her. I was trying to get help stopping abuse. Cops wouldn't do their fucking jobs. These therapists wouldn't do their fucking jobs. And of course they're telling me, oh, Sean, you should try to deal with this out of court. Fucking assholes. When Natalie was killed, well, people threw some money at me. Where did all that money go? Let me tell you about the almost $4,000 that was donated to GoFundMes. They were scams. They were not created by me, and I didn't get a single penny out of them. Not a single penny. But I got treated like I scammed them. The way that Ted Bollinger and Rose M. Kelly scammed people. I never made a GoFundMe then. I'd been trying to start a GoFundMe because, of course, people wanted to pressure me to do these things. I had paid people because, of course, my friends wanted to push me to make a GoFundMe, and I was asking people to help me to do it. And instead of helping me to do it, they're wanting to tell me, oh, you can't figure it out on your own? Are you some sort of an idiot? Dude, just look it up on YouTube. If you don't have everything that you need to do that, you don't get to do that. If you don't know how to make that shit work, you don't know how to make that shit work. If you need help, you need help. If you pay somebody for help and they don't provide the help that you paid for, they need to give you your fucking money back. But who gave me my money back? Nobody. Alright, apparently it disconnected for a second, or possibly longer. So I spent all this money in December, and a lot of that money was supposed to come back. Most of my money from October forward was spent paying people, everyone from Brandon Ratner to Derek Parrish and Joanna Taylor Smith for helping me move and for gas. It went to paying Kenneth Wilson and Leatha Plunkett for rent, but also it went to me being ripped off for things that were mine. It was my disability money, and they had no right to take advantage of me and rip me off for it. And then there was the going to see people like Pierre and going to see people like Ryan. Then after Natalie was killed, my money was spent moving over and over and over and over again. Oh, why don't you move somewhere else? People trying to bully me to move, and then my quote-unquote friends telling me, oh, well, you should think about moving somewhere else. Do you think about moving somewhere else? You'd be surprised how many times I moved. Well, my friends didn't even know I'd left Boulder. They cared that fucking little. I hadn't been to Boulder and actually been in Boulder for longer than an hour or two. Other than literally waiting in Starbucks. I couldn't just wait all day and spend all of my money for people not to show up, for them not to understand. I am disabled now. I understand how I used to be. I understand what I was able to do back then. I also understand that the moment I hurt my back, none of you cared. None of you listened. None of you. You wanted to tell me to do all these things myself. Well, you weren't capable of doing them yourself, even in full health. So what the fuck kind of drugs are you on telling me to take care of it all myself? I spent that money running around to all the places that I was told if I go here and I go there, they'll help me. I spent the money to get a computer. I spent the money to get what I was told I needed to get. Stuff that's supposed to help autistic people. I got soundproofing fucking earmuffs. Because I was told that's supposed to help. No matter what, nobody would lift a goddamn finger to do a goddamn thing about the threats, harassment, intimidation, threats against my life, assaults. None of that. Nothing about the social isolation. Nothing about the sheer quantity of money that I had to pour into this fucking monster. This monster called the United States. Where we victimize the most victimized people in the country. Where we give them $600 a month for being disabled. And then we force them to spend twice that much to run around for all of the requirements to even keep that money. So you gotta somehow come up with $1,100 to $1,400 a month for this. So I had to sell a lot of my stuff. I sold everything that I could so I could have enough money to even feed myself. And Ken Wilson and Leah Plunkett, right before Natalie was killed, they wanted more fucking money from me, and they wanted me to go buy them some more weed. And then my money got spent jumping around through what more therapists wanted me to do, and what the police wanted me to do, and where they wanted me to go, and where they wanted me to travel. And if I do this, they'll help me. If I do that, they'll help me. Going to see Joanna Taylor Smith because she was going to help me. After Natalie was killed, I spent that money on jumping through all of the hoops I had to jump through because I was assaulted by Officer Waylon Lolatai. Because I was pegged as a fucking murderer by the media. And a stalker. Oh, I know what a fucking stalker is. If I give you a tiny taste of what I went through, just between leaving Virginia and when Natalie got her brains blown out, if I gave you a tiny taste of that, you would scream bloody murder. Oh my God, Sean, you piece of shit. I can't believe you would say that to somebody with PTSD. You're mentally ill. I've decided that what we have taught women to be in the United States is the most disgusting thing that there is possible for a person to be. And I am disgusted by the fact that I have to share anything with women at all. Because the fact that I share with them puts me at risk of abuse. Abuse that every woman in America has been taught is okay for her to commit against a man. I have to be afraid of all women. Women do not have to be afraid of me. I wasn't taught that I can make any false accusation at any time I want, and all men are supposed to drop what they're doing to help me. I wasn't taught that if I pretend that somebody touched my bad place. You know why? Because that shit doesn't work for a boy. We're told we need to shut up, and we're just going to make it worse for ourselves, and that's because it does. If a man comes forward, he is berated and bullied by men, berated and bullied by women, treated like he's a pedophile for coming forward about being sexually abused. Coming forward as a man is fucking far goddamn worse than having to come forward as a female. So after Natalie was killed, I had to run to a lot more different places, and I had a lot more predators, and I had to maintain a lot more information, and I had to buy a lot of electronic bullshit because there were switching numbers like this asshole. Harassers. Where have my friends been? Where have they been since 2015 when I hurt my back? They're only my friends when I pay them. Yeah, Brandon Ratner is my friend, and he'll help me out of a situation if I pay him for it. Well, fine. At least I paid him for it. The least he could do is admit, instead of throwing it in my face that he did stuff that he never came forward to the cops with or to the public, instead of throwing that shit in my face, the least he could fucking do is admit that I fucking paid him. I paid him $200 out of $900 for a vehicle that I never got. I was fucked out of that vehicle in 2015 when I hurt my back. I never got that $200 back. I paid that to Brandon Ratner to help me move stuff. So I paid for it. When he came and helped me move my stuff from Chapel, Nebraska to Kenneth and Leah to their place, again, that was another $200. When I paid him after Natalie's death, I paid him another $200 to help me move my stuff from Kenneth Wilson and Leah Plunkett's to Longmont, Colorado, with Tabitha Michelle Cook and her boyfriend at the time, Joshua Eichelberger, who was highly abusive, lived. And, of course, his best friend and Tabitha Michelle Cook's later boyfriend, Graham Milborn. And yes, I paid for that. I also paid $500 for a month rent at Tabitha Michelle Cook's. I also cleaned there every day, every single day. The only person that didn't clean was Joshua Eichelberger. Literally every other person in the house cleaned. Every one of us. I also spent that money to pay Graham Milborn to help me. If I paid him to take the time to look, maybe he would, but no. Every time he started to keep his word, Joshua Eichelberger in a drunken stupor needed attention, and he needed it right now. There's some project. He could always wait. By the way, I've had to deal with this since over a year before Natalie was killed. They made literally dozens of fake accounts. I made 2 fake accounts. One of them to ask her to call off the fucking dogs, and the other one to destroy my Facebook before killing myself so that people wouldn't target Natalie, Alicia, and Maddie. So that very specifically, women like Joanna Taylor Smith, who had said that she would do harmful things to Natalie, Alicia, and Maddie if I killed myself. Well, I made sure that I destroyed my Facebook so that couldn't happen. Well, at the time, you couldn't destroy your Facebook that way. So I had to make a fake account to do that. And when I made the fake account to do that, I didn't have a death certificate, so it still didn't fucking let me. I spent the money buying computers because I needed to do this stuff electronically. I spent my money buying USB stick after USB stick. I spent my money on getting different types of cameras to record it. I spent money on getting my vehicle legal, on getting fucking parts and pieces for this thing that's falling apart all the goddamn time. I spent my money to pay, well, anybody who was willing to help me. And through all of it, never getting to stop and establish myself anywhere because of abuse, because of the jurisdiction thing. I'm bullied into leaving, and then I'm told I can't turn in that stuff now that I've left because of jurisdictional issues. Well, I was bullied into leaving by the police in Chapel, Nebraska, more than once. And the public in Chapel, including registered sex offender Robert Franklin Warnick. That's right, registered sex offender. Maybe I should say that one more again for you. Registered sex offender. Whereas, let's take a look at me. Have I ever been charged with child abuse? No. Have I ever been charged with rape or molestation? No. Now let's take a look at those 3 charges, and let's take a look at Andrew Witcher. Yes. Amy Witcher. Yes. Harley Richmond. Yes. Dallas Richmond. Yes. Ryan Ingersoll. Yes. Ted Bollinger. Yes. Natalie's mom. Natalie's stepmoms. Yes, yes, and yes. Amy Spencer. Yes. Joshua Rayborn. Yes. Rihanna Ingersoll. Yes. And then these people pretend like I would, what? That I'd tell on them. Well, that's not pretending. I did fucking tell on them. So they pretend I'm a horrible person for telling on them. I told you in that in good confidence. Don't you ever tell me that somebody molested your fucking kid and expect me to keep it a goddamn secret. After Natalie was killed, I spent my money going around all the court-appointed places I was told to go, which is like 8 different places. And that turned out to be just $600 a month just for running around to all those services and court dates every single month. $600 of my just barely over $600 a month. So I had to fight and struggle and jump through hoops. Had no time for anything else because I still had to come up with money to live on. Because of false charges. It was just dollar after dollar after dollar going right down the tubes. All my back payments ended up almost subsidizing part of that, were it not for the fact that I had to buy electronic crap and more electronic crap. I had to pay for bus tickets for myself and several other people who claimed that they were going to help me. They were going to come forward. That they weren't going to hide anything. That they weren't going to be shady adults. Never trust an adult who asks you to keep secrets. A lot of people wanted me to hide their names from the public, and they were going to come forward with me to the police. Well, they never came forward with me to the police. But the fact that they lied about that, well, I recorded conversations with each and every one of these people to prove that I told the truth. And I will continue to do so to the best of my ability. My money went to traveling to see Ran Ingersoll, because she promised that she'd help me if I went. But she had a built-in excuse when she screwed me over. Oh, my husband said it's not all right. Well, you should have probably fucking checked with him before telling me it was all right and having me spend that money. I spent that money to go see Brenda Dickinson, who was going to help me. I spent the money so that I could have rent at Dallas Richmond's. I spent the money so that Sally Treon in Pueblo, Colorado, who I was staying with, would have extra snacks and extra chairs and other things that they absolutely had to have. Meanwhile, it was not quiet there. And of course, when I gotta move stuff, I still have to pay people to help me move it because I'm still fucking disabled. And then of course, there's having to spend some of that money on bail and wait on them to send me the money back years after, when they finally dropped the charges. They only pressed the charges on me to begin with to prevent me from turning in cops like Waylon Lolatai and hospitals like Clearview Behavioral Health. Well, with all due respect, Clearview and Lolatai already showed, both of them, that I told 100% the truth about them, and they just kept on doing it to other people. There was no reason for them to hold Clearview over my head to prevent me from turning in any of the crimes committed against me for all that time. I kept on getting told by officers they'd dig through any excuse. If it wasn't, oh, wrong jurisdiction, or, oh, it'll take an act of God, or it's not our job, it's mental health's job. Have you tried settling it out of court? You should really try to settle it out of court. Of course, a lot of these people, when I explained to them that I was having an issue with a woman, they didn't have any idea what she looked like. After she was dead and she was all over the news, lots of people knew what she looked like. She was young and pretty, and when they realized that, they got fucking scared. Holy shit. Dual County Sheriff's Department didn't do their jobs. Chesapeake, Virginia Police Department didn't do their jobs. How about Broomfield Police? How about Boulder Police Department? How about Adams County Sheriff's Department? How about Longmont Police Department? How about any of these goddamn agencies at all? And then, of course, there's people's wants. Being at Tabitha's and having to spend a bunch of money so they can go buy beer and fucking pot. Spending money at Sally Treon's because they're out of beer and they're out of pot. And then, of course, I got to go try to see my own doctors because I'm not going to be dealing with their rubber stamps. That's fucking horrid. My own doctors absolutely did not agree with what the police had to say. And why is that? Because they actually sat down and listened to me instead of being tainted by those officers and taken in an emergency after they have antagonized the situation. I spent my money trying to show all of the conflicts of interest that have gone on because the police didn't want to do their fucking jobs. And if I didn't have a friend or family member to go in with me, that these people were going to continue. that I wouldn't be able to see my friends or family, that I wouldn't be able to function, that I would be continually sent in circles, spending all of my money to do what Nicole Peralta, the therapist, wanted me to do. Spending all my money to run around and do what it is that Scott DaCosta, the sheriff, wanted me to do. Spending all of my money running around and doing what it is that Nicole Trujillo wanted me to do. Sorry, not Nicole Trujillo. My most sincere apologies, Nicole. I do know a Nicole Trujillo, and it wasn't her. I meant Kayla Trujillo, aka Miss Peaches. My money has gone to try to reestablish myself over and over and over again. My money has gone to making sure that people don't fucking die in front of me out here. My money has gone to make sure that I don't freeze to death. It's gone to making sure that I have tools to at least do some of these jobs myself. It's gone to paying people like, well, Miss Farnsworth to help, who didn't show up and took advantage of me. Paying to go around in circles to different churches and other various agencies who tell me it's not their job, it's not their job, it's not their job. Paying for gas to try to go someplace safe, or to pay for a storage unit so I can keep my stuff, at least, because it's expensive to recollect it. All of my back pay was spent buying what it is that people expected from me or blackmailed out of me. It was spent having to buy computers and printers and optical mice, while the police repeatedly stole that stuff under false pretenses. Over and over again, because homeless and disabled men aren't human beings to you. What I'm asking you is, those of you who are saying kill all men, what I am asking you is, please, there's the men who victimize you, and then there's men like me who you take it out on, and who the men who victimize you take it out on, who the police take it out on, who other homeless take it out on. When you say kill all men, do I agree or disagree? For me, I agree. I don't want to be here abused anymore. If there's no more simps, as you call us, for you to blame and take it out on when you make stupid decisions, then you have to blame the people responsible. Just like your predators chose you as a victim for a reason, you chose me as a victim for a reason. It's not just financial abuse, it's physical abuse, it's sexual abuse. I have endured every kind of abuse there is. All a woman has to do is pretend like you're a rapist or a child molester, or a woman beater, or a stalker. A stalker isn't one of the three lies, though, is it? No, it encompasses all three. It's to insinuate that a man couldn't take no for an answer. It must be sexually motivated. He must want to rape you and murder your family and chop you up into little pieces and feed you to your dog. Meanwhile, Natalie Bollinger exhibited stalker behaviors. I did not. I never once asked her where she was after I left Virginia. I didn't give a fuck where she was at. What I cared about was I couldn't see my friends and family. when police told me I needed to get a hold of Natalie and try to handle this out of court. It's not their jobs. I did that. And she pretended that I stalked her. When I told them that I was being assaulted, and they told me, well, it's not our problem, go to that jurisdiction. So now I got to travel to different jurisdictions to talk to officers in different jurisdictions. And then there's the times that people like Brandon Ratner promised that he was going to come see me. And he did come see me some of those times. And ended up telling me about him and Veronica the whole time. Him and Veronica, him and Veronica, him and Veronica. I spent my money jumping through the hoops I was told to. This whole time. There were times that I had so many court dates and so many appointments with public pretenders and so many appointments with investigators. The investigators had a 100% ratio. No call, no shows. Every single time costing me at least $100 to travel somewhere where my life is at risk and my physical safety is at risk because my predators live there. My predators live in those communities. That I have to go and see those, well, investigators. Because those investigators are supposed to do something about the abuse I'm enduring. It also costs me $100 every time I have to go see my public pretender. And it costs me $100 every time I have to go to court. Because my public pretender won't meet me on the same day as court. And the investigator won't meet me on the same day as the public pretender. The public pretender is the one who sets me up with the appointment with the investigator. And of course, the courts are the ones who set me up with the appointments for court. And of course, my public pretender is supposed to be there to help, which they repeatedly were no call, no shows at court. About 50% of the time, they were no call, no shows. About 50% of the time when we had a meeting that I was supposed to go to with them that also cost me $100, there were no call, no shows. There are witnesses to all this, but they have to call up with me to explain that I told the truth about the situation instead of forcing me to record it years afterwards. Making me record the fact that you knew already and you did nothing. Instead of you coming forward with me to tell the police that I at least came to you for help and I tried. At least explain to them that you weren't able to because of the same excuses you wanted to tell me. You couldn't because of your kids? You couldn't because of your kids? Did you ever try telling the cops that? Did you? No, that's why I had to go public. Before Natalie was killed, I had to go public on Facebook. After Natalie was killed, I was armed with the internet, and I could actually show things on YouTube. Thanks to Jerry Sparks, who, by the way, I told about several abusive situations because I knew her to be a mandated reporter. She didn't care. She blew me off. A lot of people did that. I spent my money doing what Lana Engeline wanted. I spent my money doing what King and Nichols wanted. I spent my money doing what Natalie Bollinger wanted, what Alicia Bollinger wanted, what Maddie Boa wanted. I spent my money getting 1,700 miles away from Natalie Bollinger. I spent my money trying to start a business after Natalie was killed. Paintball. Well, not paintball literally. You know those little glow-in-the-dark plastic BBs? Airsoft? Yeah, I figured that would be a good business during social distancing. I also ended up getting blackmailed out of over $4,000 of that and forced to buy... What was I forced to buy? 3 AR-15 kits. 80%. And I made sure that when I was being blackmailed into buying that I let somebody know. And when that somebody didn't do a goddamn thing about it, and I was forced to actually buy those things with my own money, I did it on my Direct Express card. And I had to have help doing that. But my Direct Express card is a government card. And it should have been flagged. Red flagged right away when I ordered those gun parts. It fucking didn't. I spent my money going to Cheyenne. I spent my money going to South Dakota. I spent my money going to Montana. I spent my money going to Washington State and California and Virginia. And I spent a lot of other people's money doing that too. People who wouldn't have had to spend any of that money if they'd have fucking spoken up immediately instead of procrastinating and wasting my time. I wasted my money paying Kenneth Wilson and Leah Plunkett. I wasted my money on gas so that Kayla Trujillo could supposedly come forward and tell the truth at court to the cops. It didn't matter. Yeah, I gave her the money for gas. She didn't follow through. She needed money for food for her and the kids. I did that too. Before and after Natalie's death. And I paid for gas so that I could actually go and meet Natalie. I was so broke by the end of that, when Natalie was supposed to meet me, but it ended up being a protection order. I was so broke that Miss Kayla Trujillo had to pay me some of that money back that I'd given her for gas so that I could get on a bus and go back down to Kenneth Wilson and Leah Plunkett's. I didn't know that I was going to have to make that walk again that month. I had to make that walk again when Kenneth Wilson and Leah Plunkett backed me into a corner in the kitchen and Dawn Bird came out and started assaulting me immediately. Yeah, that was the 26th of December of 2017. Natalie Bollinger was killed 5 blocks away from Kayla Trujillo's house on 120th and Melody. She was killed 5 blocks away. It was a cold fucking night too. Did any of these people that I went to for help before Natalie died ever come forward with me to the police? No. How about the ones who took part in these actions after Natalie was killed? Who promised to help me, promised if I wasted my resources that they'd help me? I spent it where Natalie's predators wanted me to. I spent my money where Danica Garner wanted me to spend it. I spent my money where Rochelle Shelley Campbell wanted me to spend it. Because if I did those things, they would help me. And did they? They told me to go to the police about the situations with Ted Bollinger, but they didn't come forward with me, and I got treated like I was making it all up by the police. I'm disabled, and none of my money that is supposed to take care of me as a disabled person has gotten to actually be spent to take care of me as a disabled person. It's spent running around in circles for resources that are supposed to help me in a perfect world with no gender bias, no sexism. No capitalism. Had to pay to get myself out of jail. I had to pay Kayla Trujillo an extra $100 to help bail me out of jail. I had to pay her to go to places with me, and she often didn't show up either. She promised me that if I came to her place, that she'd help me, and instead, her and Raja, like I said, wanted to peer pressure me into buying video games. The video games would help me get my mind off of it, huh? Well, I couldn't save both the video games and all of the evidence. I had to pay people to teach me how to do stuff that they never taught me how to do. Thousands of dollars to do those things. I had to stay with alcoholics like Shannon Alvarado. I had to stay with drug dealers like Kenneth Wilson and Leatha Plunkett. I had to stay with alcoholics like Joshua Eichelberger. I had to stay with drug dealers like Kayla Trujillo. While being victimized by pedophiles. And the police protected the pedophiles. Pedophiles had more rights than someone who was quote unquote mentally ill. If you are against assisted termination of life, you should at least be for assisted termination of mind. It would be a mercy ending, because nobody should have to go through this. Being told by people in foreign countries that I should magically be able to do this because people earn less in their countries. They also don't pay as much out as people in this country. I can't get out of my car right now to go do things for myself. My legs are too wobbly and too shaky. My money was spent going to appointment after appointment after appointment with Nicole Peralta, Nicole Jarrell, Jeff Ritter, Kara Heller, Tamara, all before Natalie was killed. Afterwards, I had to go to appointments with, again, Nicole Peralta and Jen Beebe, Marcia Estrada, Penny Cooper, and then, of course, all the courts ever since. And then, of course, all of the travel for the situation with Rhiannon Ingersoll. Yes, I got them kids safe. Goddamn right I did. I did whatever it fucking took to get those two girls safe. And fuck any of you who got a problem with that. They even wrote a letter to the judge saying they didn't want to go home and live with their mother. How much you want to bet the police took credit for all that? Meanwhile, they did charge Rhiannon Ingersoll with child abuse. But they dropped the charges because if they didn't, then they couldn't take me to court and play like they did the right thing. Because of all of the calls to them, repeated calls about the child abuse that was, in fact, and indeed happening. It wasn't just the 6 calls that I made. It was also 3 other anonymous calls that were made by others. That's a grand total of 9 phone calls to the goddamn cops. And it still took me breaking the law to get those girls safe. And the police helped the female predator to get away. That's right, Rhiannon Ingersoll was the predator. Just like in the situation with Harley Richmond, they helped the female predator to get away. Just like in the situation with Leslie Snell, they helped the female predator to get away. Where did my money go? To trying to defend myself from disgusting, perverted, and sexist Americans.